why we afford you the opportunity to gain information from a wide array of experts from all over the world is because you're not going to get this information in media. The media today is completely and absolutely controlled by corporate interest, and the corporate interest is headed by the food and the drug industries. So we're here to hope to liberate you. And this is a long history. If we go back, we are sort of the newcomers, or as we say here in America, the newbies to this. Back when I was just a young boy, they were writing books on the potential problems we'd have in the future and the environment. Today it's come to fruition. Right here in the very state that we're speaking in, we are now concerned about cities and towns going underwater in the next several decades. Last night I had a discussion with a colleague of mine. New York Times just recently wrote that New York City will be pretty much underwater in the next 100 years. Our founder, who happens to be up here on the screen, Anne Wigmore, back in 1952, was told by Harvard doctors that she had 90 days to live. She had advanced stage 4 cancer. Now, the good thing for her and all of us is that she grew up in a village in Lithuania, and her surrogate grandmom was the village doctor. And she watched doctors 100 years ago, basically, helping people with food, love, and herbs. And so she learned, by default, what doctors should do. So she went home in Boston, in the shadows of the greatest institution maybe in the world in medicine, Harvard University, and she made them wrong. And in 1956, opened up the world's very first residential health education center. And that's the center that I've had the privilege to direct since 1980. But Anne was also surrounded by other heroic people in the health field. Shelton with the natural hygiene movement. Michio Kushi with the macrobiotic movement. Some of the greats from a long time ago, Paul Bragg, Jack LaLanne. All of these people are why we're sitting here today. Carlson, who wrote the book and told us, look at the birds in Central Park. They're already getting sick and dying 60 years ago. These are the people that we want to start this conference by applauding. So let's give them all a hand. Now, with that said, today I was asked to speak about a subject that is very, very close to my heart, and probably why I got into this work 45 years ago. That my first mentor was this wonderful lady, Lillian Galton, who grew up in New York City, and she was as New York can be. And when I met her, she told me a stunning story that I'd never heard. Being an Irish guy, I grew up in a very large family because we were told that having lots of babies were a good thing. And so I had lots of cousins, and on it went. And whenever I went to wakes, that's what we call funerals in the Irish realm, I would always be listening to why that person was sitting in the casket. And every once in a while as a child, I would hear them whisper, cancer, cancer. But it wasn't often, because that was the middle of the 20th century. And Lillian stood up, this proud, wonderful lady, and told me,
you know, decades ago, they told me I was going to croak from cancer. And I didn't croak. I healed cancer.
I said, Lillian, how do you
Heal cancer.
And she said,
I ate it away.
Now that was a brand new concept to me. All I knew about eating is if it tasted good and it was a lot, do it. That was it. A lot and taste. And she put me, thank goodness, under her wing and said to me, you've got to start to work in this field. Do you know that 1 out of 7 people here in North America then had cancer? That was shocking and appalling to me. One thing I was pretty good at is basic math. I learned that in grade school. And I knew that I had 2 brothers, a mother and father, that was already 4, and I had 2 sets of grandparents, that was already 8. So I said, what she's actually saying to me, with these 8 people that are the closest people in the world to me that it's highly likely that 1 out of 7 will contract cancer. Well, I promise you, listening today, I would get on my knees and pray to God for the rest of my life if we could have 1 out of 7. Because over half of you will contract cancer now. And because you're lulled into believing that there's some masterful, great mind that's overseeing this and watching out for you, you somehow don't realize that this is completely abnormal and catastrophic and dangerous. The statistics are mounting into the horror shows. The number one killer of our babies now below 5 is brain cancer. When I began my work nearly half a century ago, if I heard about a child that had brain cancer, I would really question whether or not it was so. Number one killer of our little babies. Our children, 16 and younger, the most tender, most vulnerable, and obviously volatile among us. Accident is their first killer, but cancers are the second killer. Again, leukemia is part of that. Lymphoma is rising by the year, and brain cancer also. Doesn't mean that they're limited to those, but these are the cancers that I see. The work that I've had the privilege to do and the honor to do, the hardest part of it is over the last 2 or so decades, sitting in my office as I did last week with a doctor who brought her 11-year-old daughter to Hippocrates because she did 3 rounds of chemotherapy and the cancer returned each and every time with vengeance. And thank God medicine is starting to come around, because not too many years ago when I would stand up on stages at medical conferences worldwide and say, at Hippocrates Health Institute, starting with our founder, Ann Wigmore, 1956, we have taught people a lifestyle. And when they're wise enough and self-respecting enough and adopt that lifestyle and go home and maintain that lifestyle, thousands of these people have reported to us and shown us medical reports from their doctors all over the world that they've reversed that cancer. Now, I'll repeat the word thousands. Not 1, not 2. It would be different. That could be an enigma. That could be good luck. But 60 years, this is our 60th anniversary, and thousands of people reporting, and me knowing many, many, many of those people, put it into the realm of empirical. That's the great word that they always use in mainstream research science. This is empirical evidence. Now, the fault they always give us, well, do you not have millions and millions of dollars of research? Well, please give it to us. You would think that the health care world would want to know what could help to provoke people recover from a disease that they seemingly have a difficult time making any headway with. Any headway with. And so as I sat with that mother who happens to be a doctor, and she cried, and I hugged her, and she also added, and we'll speak about this at this conference too, that one of her other children have autism. And I said, "You are heroic." I said, "I always thought I was a good parent until I saw parents like you raising autistic children," which is going to be very, very common. But modern medicine now is the next step for them, is they're going to put viruses in this young girl. Which, by the way, I think is not a bad idea. Because when I was at those medical conferences telling the doctors and the people listening that why the Institute has had so many people able to reverse their own cancer is because we help to boost and strengthen the immune system, they would say, no, the immune system can't identify cancer, and there's nothing to do with cancer. By the way, the immune system is why you have cancer and why cancer is so catastrophic. Well, they've changed their story. Because after nuclear medicine has obviously and clearly proven itself to be as damaging and as dangerous, if not more dangerous than the disease itself, they now are talking about immunotherapy. Sounds familiar? Immune system, immunotherapy. Now, we're a long way from that being sophisticated because they're still demanding that nuclear medicine has to be utilized. You have to do the radiation and chemotherapy when you're also trying to boost the immune system. But somewhere along the way, they're going to liberate this, and they're going to say what this intelligent mother is going to do with her daughter. Maybe if I inject a little bit, not a dangerous amount of viruses into the body, that it will activate the immune system. Now, she's really smart because she has her daughter now on the Hippocrates lifestyle. And what we do for everyone, healthy people that come to us, people who are sick, people who want to just fight the aging process like me. I'm not happy getting old. Any of you happy getting old here? No. Out there in the world? Okay. Well, you better want to fight it. It's your immune system that does that. Not a pill, but your immune system. And what we know is that nature and God gave us an extraordinary ability to support and love and honor that immune system. And here's what we know makes that work. Better than any other methodologies or slick therapies that you can do. Number one, attitude. So that's why every guest who comes to Hippocrates sees psychotherapist. Do we think you're all crazy? Yes. But sad is worse than crazy. Sad will weaken your immune system worse than any other element you can possibly imagine. If you're sad, your immune system goes low. And if you're sad, you'll eat like I used to eat. Meat, dairy, ice cream, bread, cake, cookies, candy, because that's the fuel for sad. So we got to stop the sad stuff. Now the next things that are very practical. Food. That was a refreshing discussion I had with my mentor, Lillian Galton. I didn't know that food had anything to do with health. I didn't know food had anything to do with anything other than fill yourself up.